Notion has been on an absolute tear with new features lately. Seriously, the original title for this video was going to be 3 new Notion features you need to know about. And then Notion released another one, and then another one, and then another one. And well, you can see the title of this video. Today we are going over, seriously, 10 new recent Notion features that you need to know about. And I'm going to have all of them in the table of contents right there and in the description down below so you can skip around in this video. So we're going to jump into each of these 10 features in this video. I'm going to give you a quick overview of each one, show you how it works. And the one thing I will mention before we jump into the first one is that if you find yourself a little bit confused in this video, if you're new to Notion, you want to learn exactly how it works, I've got a full, complete, and free beginners tutorial series over at thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals. If you want to learn Notion, that is the way to do it. So check that link out. There's a link in the description down below. And with that being said, let's jump into the first feature that we're going to cover in this video, which is Notion's update to their multi-column layouts feature. Now, I had a whole video in the past where I shared some really cool hacks for getting these multi-column layouts with nested columns, but that video is basically obsolete now because Notion came out with some huge updates to the way that you can create and manipulate multiple columns. So I've got this page here called columns, fittingly, and we're going to start creating ourselves some columns. So why don't we build ourselves a little bit of a week planner just to show you how this would work. So I'm going to give myself heading 1. I'm going to call it week of August, and I think the week is August 8th, 2022. And under this heading, I want to make myself a multi-column list for each day of the week. So one way that I could do that is by actually typing /col, and now I've got these advanced blocks that I can select from: 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns, 5 columns. So if I click 5 columns right here, I'm going to get myself 5 columns, and now I can start putting stuff in them. COL is not the only shortcode for this. I can type /columns, /column, and even /C, 3, 4, and 5, though weirdly it does not work for 2 columns. So I'm just gonna go with COL as the one that I commit to memory. I'm gonna create 5 columns right there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and create some headings for myself. And just like that, I've got a multi-column layout where I can create a nice little weekly planner for myself if I wanted to. Now, what if you already have some blocks on a page that you want to turn into a multi-column layout? Well, there's a feature for that now as well. I can now select up to 5 blocks. I can open up the block menu here, and if I go to the turn into submenu, I can find a columns option right here that will automatically turn those into a multi-column layout, which is really nice. One more little trick I'll share here is if I have a single column block like so, I can actually hold Alt or Option on a Mac, and I can hit this plus button to create a new column to the right of it, which is pretty cool. Now, what about nested columns? What if I had a 2-column layout right here, but I wanted to create columns underneath these columns? That's where you used to have to do some pretty weird tricks. You'd have to make a sub page and then turn that page into a toggle or a heading and then move things around. No longer do you have to do that. Now, one thing I can't do is grab this block right here and drag it around to create a nested column, but I don't really have to because, number one, I can select both of these blocks and I can use a little turn into trick to create my nested columns like that. Or I can just come under this block and just like before, I can create 2 columns underneath my existing column, and then I can drag and drop as needed. So nested columns are now something you can do, and you can even do double nested columns, triple. You can basically go down as many layers as you want until it's pretty much impossible to see what's going on your screen. Now, what about a big list like this? This is more than 5 blocks, but you'll notice that when I select them all, I'm actually only getting 3 different selections. So if I turn these into columns, I'm just going to get 3 columns with the child blocks nested underneath their parent block. So that's a good thing to know if you have things like an indented list or a numbered list or a bold list, anything like that where you want to create multiple columns. One more thing that I'm going to cover before we move on to the next feature is toggles, synced blocks, and template blocks. You can now create multiple columns very easily inside all of those as well. So to show you that, let's create ourselves a toggle, and within the toggle, just like before, I can create myself an advanced block to get multiple columns, and that works really, really nicely. One little caveat that I will mention here is that if you have existing content that is already in a multi-column layout that you want to get into a toggle, there is a way that's going to work and a way that won't work. So let me just create myself another 3-column layout here. I'll put Monday here, Tuesday here. Now, if I want these to go inside of a toggle or a synced block or anything like that, dragging them isn't going to work. If I select all of these and I drag them into the toggle, they're not going to retain their multi-column status. However, if I instead cut them and then paste them into the toggle, they will stay in their multiple columns. So that's about all there is to know about the new columns feature inside of Notion. And from there, we're going to move on to the second big feature, and probably my favorite one, which is a new view called Side Peek. Now, you're probably used to opening up pages in a database and getting this old view that's called Center Peek, where it just sort of comes up in a modal like this and dims the background. Pretty good, but I've always really wished that I could look at my content and see the content of the databases as well. And now with Side Peek, that is exactly what you can do. It just slides out this little drawer where you can see your content, but you can also interact with the page underneath the page that's been opened in the database. So I can now switch between these pages in this database really, really quickly. But this is something that you can set as a preference per database or per database view. So for example, I've got a couple of linked databases here that are showing the exact same underlying database. However, if I click on this KV transmitter page from this view, it's going to come up in Center Peek. And if I go back to this second linked database view and I click this exact page, which is also shown here, it's going to instantly open as a full page, which is another nice little quality of life update, something that I've been wanting Notion to add for a very long time. So these different database page view settings are set on a per database view basis, and I'll show you exactly how you can change that. So per view, if we go over to this three-dot menu for our database view here, and we go to the layout menu, we're going to see this new option called Open Pages In. And if I click that, I'll have three options: Side Peek, Center Peek, and Full Page, which I've just shown all three of them. And you'll also notice in this blue text here that there is a default view for each type of database layout. So galleries and calendars are going to default to the old Center Peek, whereas list, board, timeline, and table, basically all of them, are now defaulting to Side Peek. And you can, of course, change that if you want. You can change to full page if you want that to happen, but you basically just have a lot of different choices now for how you want to view the page content for your databases. Now, if you have a setting here, like say I've got Side Peek here for this list, but you want to view a page in a different layout, you can simply open it up, and then you can open it as a full page, or you can click right here and switch the mode that you want. So I'm going to open this as a Center Peek right now. If I click away from it and open it again, once again, it's going to go back to my default. The last thing I'll mention here about Side Peek is that when you open a page here, you can actually change the width of the opened page. And in my testing, I found that when you don't have it quite as zoomed in as I do right now, you can get it as small as about 25% of the screen, and you can get it as large as about 2/3 of the screen. Also, if you happen to have your real sidebar open with all your pages here, dragging the Side Peek window over too far will automatically close it. Also, I'll note that the list view seems to be the best one overall for using Side Peek, because you actually get your tags here and it just sort of is just responsive with the Side Peeked page. Whereas if I'm using basically any other kind of database layout, it's going to have these horizontal scroll bars here. Now, cool trick, if you hold Shift on your keyboard, you can actually scroll horizontally, so it's not that big of an inconvenience, but overall, I do prefer list view when I'm using the Side Peek mode here. New feature number 3 is default templates in databases. We can now have a setting where when we create a new page in a database, a template is automatically applied instead of you having to go in and apply that template yourself every single time. Let me show you exactly how that works. So here I've got a linked view of my projects database from my Ultimate Second Brain template. And right now, if I create a new project, which I will just call Train for Boxing Match, when I open that project, I'm going to see no content here because normally I would have to actually click this template to have all of its content and settings applied. But now I have a new option. Now I can actually first delete this, and then I can go up to this little blue arrow here where I can see my templates. And if I click the three-dot menu here, I can now set this as a default. And when I do this, it's going to ask me a question. Do I want this default to be for all the views in this entire database or only on this specific view that I'm working on right now, which is a nice touch. I've also found in my testing that if you have already set specific default templates for other views, if you set a template for all the views in your entire projects database or any database later on, it will not overwrite any of your custom settings. It's only going to set defaults for views where you haven't set a specific view-specific setting here. So just for this one, I'm going to set it only on board view. And now when I create that project, I can click into it and I'm going to see my template content already being automatically created and any of these status or properties being set as well. I've also found with my testing that if you have properties that are being set from your template that will conflict with any filters you have on the specific view, then just like it's always been, the filters are going to take precedence and override any values in your template. I can show you an example of that. If we switch over to this high priority view here you can see I've got a couple of different filters here. Number one, my priority box is checked. And number two, I'm setting my status property to doing. And if we look at the template itself, if we go to edit here, we will see that the status is going to be set to do normally, and then our priority box is not checked. However, if I create a new project here, and I'll just call it project to save time, then my template is going to be applied. However, my status is doing and my priority is checked, which makes sure that this project I created in this view will actually show up in that view. New feature number 4 is a limitation feature for relations inside of databases. And if you're not sure what database relations are, I have an entire comprehensive database tutorial here on YouTube. I'll link to that in the description down below. Relations are a very, very useful feature that allow you to relate different database rows to one another. For example, I have a task here, clean up desk, and I could open up this project relation and basically relate it to any of the projects inside of my second brain template. In the past, you used to be able to set as many relations as you want, but sometimes you want to create what's called a one-to-many relation. Case in point, a tasks and projects related database setup. You may want to have many tasks that are related to one project. And for any given task, you really only want it to be related to one project. So now we can actually set that up and set up a limitation inside of Notion. If I go to my database settings here and I go to my properties and I find the project relation, I can go here and I can currently see that I have no limit set. And if I change this over to having one page as the limit, now when I relate a task to a project, I will not be able to relate it to another project. If I choose another one, it's actually going to swap out. So let me show you what that means. For cleanup desk, let's just give it a project of build new set. And if I want to select another project, like say ongoing CIG tasks, you'll notice that it's going to swap out instead of adding itself on top of or beneath the original one. Now, if I go to the project itself, and I can do that by navigating to my little project hub here and looking at my ongoing projects, I can actually see that there are multiple tasks related to this project. And that is because on the project side, our tasks relation does not currently have a limitation. And that makes sense because we may want to relate multiple tasks to one specific project. So nice little quality of life feature, nothing huge, but good to have inside of Notion. And while we are talking about database relations, let's now move on to our new feature number 5, which is an update to the relations picker itself. So I'm going to go back over to that little tasks view I had going on earlier, and we'll open up this project relation picker once again. Now, this doesn't look a whole lot different than it used to. I can choose my project pages, I can relate them to tasks, but what if I wanted to see specific properties of that project? Well, that is now possible, and you can do it by opening up this little 3 dot here inside the relation picker and then choosing which of the properties inside the related database you want to actually show here. So for projects, I might actually want to show their current status, and I can show multiple if I want here. I can also show their area if I want to. I can show their priority, and this basically just gives you more context about the related pages that you're picking here. Now, I do really wish that they had also added sort and filter features so I could maybe only see the projects that have a doing status at the moment, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. And now I can much more easily visually differentiate the projects that are in the doing stage or in the done stage, etc. New feature number 6 is a very, very quick and easy one to cover. It is comment reactions. So here on this page, this sort of meta page for the video that I'm filming right now, I've got a comment, and now if I go over to this little happy face button, I can add an emoji reaction just like you could in Slack. So nice little feature for teamwork. And while we're talking about comments, let's move right on over to feature number 7, which is the ability to link to comments anywhere else inside of Notion and actually get a preview of that comment's content. So if I click the 3 dot menu right here, I can copy the link to this discussion and I can go anywhere else, say this columns page they were working on earlier, come down to the bottom, paste it, and just like we get with regular URLs to external websites, we now have the option to paste this as a preview. We also have the option to paste it as a mention, that is sort of like inline text as a regular link, but I like this preview option quite a bit, and now we basically get a view of what the discussion looks like, but anywhere inside of our Notion workspace. And we can also copy this, basically behaves like any other kind of block. And new feature number 8, rolling right along here is an update to the icon picker for the pages inside of Notion. In the past, you used to have this standard set of emoji that came with your system. You were able to upload or link to custom icons, but now there's this new icons choice here. And they give you this basically custom set of icons that are not included in the standard set of emoji. And the nicest thing about them is instead of just choosing from one color, you actually have 10 different colors to choose from. And this is sort of just a nice little quality of life update, but the nicest thing about it is instead of creating a sort of hodgepodge of different colored emojis here, you can now choose one unified color for your workspace and have every page use an icon with that color. Moving right along here, new feature number 9 is the ability to align media if it is smaller than its current column. So here I've got a copy of the About page on my website, and I've got this picture of me, which I'm going to quickly scale down here. Now in the past, it would always be stuck in the middle of this column, but now I have the ability to change its alignment to either left aligned or right aligned. And you can do this in multi-column layouts as well. So if I go over here, I do a /col2 to get myself 2 columns. I now have a lot more flexibility when I'm creating these nice little page layouts. And this might be pretty useful if you, say, wanted to create a resume or a little personal website inside of Notion and share it on the web. I can size my columns as I want to, but say I want a little bit of extra spacing between this picture and this text column here. Well, I could scale this picture down like so, and then I could make sure it's aligned right, which it already is. I can align it left if I wanted to be even closer. I basically just have a lot more choice here when it comes to image alignment. And that's going to bring us to our final new feature inside of Notion, which is native progress bars. Now, if you're a formula nerd like me, you've probably been making your own homegrown progress bars in the formula editor for a long time. But now with number properties and with formula properties that are outputting numbers, we can actually display progress bars natively. All you need to do to get that enabled is to open up the property settings for either a number property or a formula property, and you will now see this little show as choice here. I can show it just as a number, I can do a bar, or I can do a ring. And when I choose these progress bars, I'm going to have an option to divide by a specific number. So here I've got a sales database. Maybe I want to divide by, say, 200. That's going to change the display. Go back to 100. That'll change the display again, and I can even choose not to show the number if I want to. So that's pretty cool, and I will mention a couple of different little quirks about this because you're probably going to run into them when you're playing with this. The first one is that if you're going to enable this in formulas, your formula needs to be currently outputting a number. So if I open up the formula settings right now, because it's outputting a number, I have these choices. But if I were to change this formula to output just a string of text, I'm no longer going to have that option showing when I go to edit the property. So keep that in mind when you're creating a new formula property. You're not going to see it. You need to actually type a formula, have it output a number, and then go and edit the formula property to get that choice. One nice thing though is that if you say change this over to a string and then have it come back to being a number, it is actually going to remember your choice and redisplay your progress bars. The other little quirk I'll mention is that roll-ups, even if they are outputting a number, are not going to show progress bars right now. So for example, if I create a rollup here in my team database to display the total number of sales dollars for Batman, like so, configure it with sales and then num and then sum, I'm going to have a sum, but there's no option to show that as a progress bar. So what you would want to do in this case is create yourself a formula and port that data over from your rollup into said formula. We can do that by simply referencing the property. So prop rollup. So now I'm going to get that $175 amount in the formula area right here. And now because I'm outputting a number in the formula, I can edit the property and I can choose a bar or a ring progress bar. I can choose what to divide it by, like so if I want. And now I've been able to show a progress bar from my rollup data. Now, one little quirk here that I will mention before we wrap this up is that if I change this over to %, I'm going to lose my progress bar and I'm also going to get 17,500%. So if you want to specifically output a % number in this formula, you may want to format it as such before setting up your progress bar. So for that, I'm just going to do the rollup divided by 1,000 to get 17.5%. And now that I have my percentage set up and I've got my formatting set up, I can go into my property and I can set my progress bar just as it should be. And now because I'm outputting a %, I don't even have the choice of what to divide by. So that's pretty cool too. So there you have it, 10 brand new features inside of Notion. Hopefully this video gets you up to speed with them pretty quickly, and I know Notion is working on even more new features that are going to be released pretty soon, so I anticipate having to make another video like this one pretty soon as well. So if you want to make sure that you are completely up to date about all of Notion's new features and how to use them, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I'm trying to make this the best educational resource for Notion around. And by the way, if you are new to Notion, if you want to learn it, if you want to learn it from the inside out, start from a completely blank page and understand advanced concepts like databases and rollups and all kinds of stuff like that, head on over to my Notion Fundamentals series. You can find that at thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals. It is completely free, completely open, has tons of example projects, downloadable templates, basically everything that you need to become a Notion expert, or at least go from beginner to understanding what you're doing and being able to build your own bespoke workflows and tools inside of Notion. And that's really what this channel is all about. If you want some free templates to get started or to manage your tasks, take notes, go over to thomasjfrank.com/templates. I've got lots of free ones there, some more advanced ones if you want to get into the whole second brain thing. And last but not least, if you want to interact with me personally and ask questions, I'm on Twitter at TomFrankly. Click the bloops right there. Some YouTubers call them bloops. I think they're just suggested videos, but click them if you want another video to watch. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video.